The scent of burning sandalwood usually brought me peace. It was the scent of my wedding night, the scent of the incense I burned while waiting for him to return from the border. Now it only smells of death. I press my forehead against the cold, cracked tiles of the cold palace floor. The stone is biting, a stark contrast to the roar of the flames devouring the pavilion of eternal spring just across the courtyard. My daughter's silk ribbon, a soft, peach-colored scrap of fabric she used to wear in her hair, is clutched so tightly in my hand that my nails have drawn blood from my own palms. It is stained, not with the dirt of play, but with the dark copper tang of the wine he gave her. Yuan? I whisper, but the name dies in a cough of black smoke. My throat feels as though I have swallowed glass. Footsteps approach. They are slow, rhythmic, and agonizingly familiar. I would know that stride anywhere. It was the sound I used to listen for every night for 10 years. I look up through the haze of my own tears and the thickening soot to see the hem of a golden robe. Lin Fengge, the man I traded my father's loyalty for. The man for whom I watched my brother march to a certain death. He looks down at me, his face as handsome and serene as a mountain lake, completely untouched by the carnage he has authored. There is not a single speck of ash on his flawless skin. Ruolin, he says. His voice is a gentle caress, the same tone he used when he promised we would grow old together. Now, it makes my skin crawl. You were always too passionate. It made you easy to use against the Empress, but a fire that burns that bright eventually turns everything to ash. Beside him stands Su Meiling. She is the picture of white lotus fragility, her eyes downcast in a fake display of grief, her hand resting delicately on her stomach. She is carrying the pure air he always wanted, the child of a woman with no powerful clan to protect her. To clear the way for this unborn child, he poisoned my Yuan. To erase the threat of the Jiang clan, he framed the Empress for a crime he himself committed. I look past him, toward the shadow standing at the edge of the courtyard. It is Empress Jiang. Her phoenix crown is crooked, her robes torn by the guards who dragged her from her throne. For 10 years, we were enemies. We tore at each other like starving wolves for the scraps of affection this monster threw from his table. I thought she was the viper. She thought I was the thief. But as our eyes meet across the dying embers of our lives, I don't see hatred. I see a mirror of my own shattered soul. He didn't just break us. He made us break each other so he could watch the pieces fall. He fed our jealousy until it consumed our families, our children, and our futures. As the roof beams of the pavilion groan and begin to collapse, sending a fountain of sparks into the winter sky, I feel a strange, freezing heat bloom in my chest. I don't want a painless death anymore. I don't want the mercy of the flames. I want a reckoning. If there is a heaven, if there is a hell, let me go back, I scream internally, my heart thumping a final desperate rhythm. Let me return to the day I first entered these red walls. Let me see the knife before it finds my heart. The world turns white. The heat of the fire is replaced by a sudden jarring bite of a winter morning. The roar of the flames fades into a haunting silence, broken only by the distant chime of a palace bell. The scent of incense is still heavy in the air, and the betrayal still stings. If you've ever felt the burn of a broken promise or the need for a second chance at justice, stay with me. The Empress and I are just beginning our dance of shadows. We're happy you joined us today. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. It really helps this channel grow and keeps the stories coming. The air is too cold. That is my first thought as my eyes fly open. The suffocating charcoal heat of the pavilion of eternal spring is gone. The smell of melting silk and burning flesh has vanished, replaced by the sharp, crisp bite of a winter dawn and the faint, elegant scent of plum blossoms. I gasp, my hands flying to my throat, expecting to feel the charred skin, and the gasping void of a life ending. Instead, my fingers meet smooth porcelain skin. My throat is clear. My breath comes in ragged, shallow hitches, puffing out in small white clouds that vanish into the silk hangings of my bed. I am not dead. I look around, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. I am lying on a bed of fine sandalwood, draped in heavy silk quilts embroidered with magpies. This is the hibiscus pavilion, my chambers from 3 years ago, before the exile, before the poison, before the blood, before I became the blazing consort who burned down her own life for a man who never loved her. My lady, you're awake early. The sun hasn't even touched the eaves yet. The voice makes me freeze. My blood turns to ice. I turn my head slowly, my eyes stinging. Standing by the bronze wash basin, wringing out a warm cloth, is Chinger, my loyal maid who was beaten to death in the cold palace for stealing a steamed bun to feed my starving daughter. She is alive. Her face is plump, her eyes bright and full of a youthful worry. Her hands are whole and unscarred. Chinger, I whisper, my voice cracking. It feels foreign in my throat, lighter, younger, but heavy with the weight of a ghost. Did you have a nightmare, my lady? She hurries over, her brow furrowed. She presses the warm cloth to my forehead. You're trembling. Don't worry, it's just the nerves. Today is the winter solstice banquet. The Emperor will be looking for you to lead the first toast. You must look your best to outshine the Empress. Remember what you said? You want her to look like a withered leaf next to your summer bloom. Outshine the Empress. In my past life, those words were my fuel. I spent 4 hours on my makeup, wore a dress of forbidden crimson, and spent the entire banquet making subtle, cruel barbs at Empress Jiang's dignity, all to win a single lingering look from Lin Fengge. I thought his smiles were my victory. I didn't realize they were the scent of a trap. I was his favorite weapon, because I was the most willing to be sharpened. The Empress, I say, the name tasting like salt and regret. Where is she? In the Phoenix Hall, of course, Chinger chirps, moving to the wardrobe, preparing her usual dull, rigid ceremony. But look, we have the Szechuan silk the Emperor sent you. If we pair it with the ruby headpiece, even the stars will look dim next to you. The Emperor said red is the only color that matches your spirit. I sit up, swinging my legs over the side of the bed. The floor is freezing, grounding me in this impossible reality. This is not a dream. The gods, or perhaps the vengeful ghosts of my family, have thrown me back into the den of lions. No, I say, my voice steadying. No Szechuan silk. No rubies. Chinger pauses, the vibrant red robe halfway out of the wardrobe. My lady? Bring me the white crane gown, I command, the one with the simple silver embroidery, and the jade hairpin my father gave me before he marched to the border. But that's so plain. It's almost mourning attire. The Emperor loves you in vibrant colors. Su Meiling is already planning to wear rose pink to look innocent. If you don't stand out, he'll spend the whole night looking at her. I don't want to stand out to him, Chinger. Not today. Today is the day the great cleansing begins. In my previous life during this banquet, an assassin was discovered in the Empress's kitchens. Lin Fengge used that incident to strip the Jiang family of their military titles. I had cheered in secret, thinking it meant more power for my father. I didn't see that once the Jiangs were gone, my family was next. He needed the Empress out of the way so he could isolate me, and then he needed me out of the way so he could bring in Su Meiling. I stand before the bronze mirror. I am 19 again. The bitterness hasn't yet etched lines around my mouth. But my eyes are old. They have seen the end of the world. Chinger, listen to me very carefully, I say, grabbing her wrists. I need you to send a message. Not through the palace eunuchs. They are all Fengge's ears. Use the old gardener, the one who owes my father his life. It must go to the Phoenix Hall. It must reach Empress Jiang's hands before the sun touches the palace gates. A message to the Empress? What would you possibly have to say to her? You two haven't spoken without an insult in 3 years. I look at my reflection, seeing the ghost of the woman who burned to death. Tell her, the hunter has 2 arrows, but only 1 bow. If the phoenix falls, the hibiscus will be used for the fire. The winter solstice banquet is a sea of gold and red. The scent of roasted meats and heavy wine fills the air, but to me, it smells like the precursor to a massacre. I walk into the great hall, my footsteps silent. I am a ghost in white and silver. As I enter, the chatter dips. They expected the blazing consort, the woman who walked like she owned the sun. Instead, they see a woman who looks like the moon, cool, distant, and haunting. At the head of the hall sits Lin Fengge. He is leaning back, a cup of jade wine in his hand, looking every bit the divine ruler. When he sees me, his eyes flicker with a momentary confusion. This isn't the woman he spent all night whispering sweet poisons to. This isn't the woman he told to burn brighter than the Empress. Ruolin, he says as I bow low, lower than I ever have before, a gesture of absolute terrifying submission. You look ethereal tonight. But where are the jewels I sent you? Is the red silk not to your liking? The winter solstice is a time for reflection and piety, Your Majesty, I say, keeping my gaze on the floor. I felt my previous vanity was a slight to the ancestors. I wish to honor the peace of your reign with simplicity. I feel his gaze lingering on me, calculating. He is a predator who relies on his prey behaving predictably. He doesn't like it when his puppets change their strings. To his left sits Empress Jiang. She is a statue of dignity, her face a mask of cold porcelain, though I can see the slight tremor in her hands. She doesn't look at me, not until I take my seat and purposely knock over my wine cup. Oh, how clumsy of me, I exclaim softly. The wine spills toward the Empress's robes. Her maids gasp, rushing forward. In the chaos of the moment, as I reach out to help, I brush the Empress's hand under the table. For a split second, our skin touches. I press a small, rolled parchment into her palm, the details of the assassin Funge has planted in her kitchen. She freezes. Her eyes, sharp and dark, fly to mine. I don't look away. I let her see the desperation, the truth, and the shared grief of 1,000 years in that one look. Trust me, I plead silently, or our children die today. The Empress pulls her hand back, the parchment vanishing into her wide sleeve. She turns to her headmaid, her voice icy. Consort Shen is clearly unwell. Perhaps she should be excused from the toast. No, Lin Fengge interrupts, his voice smooth as silk. Ruolin must stay. The entertainment hasn't even begun. My stomach drops. The entertainment. Right on cue, the doors of the hall burst open. A group of palace guards drags in a bloodied man. The music stops. The air turns to ice. Your Majesty, the lead guard shouts. We found this man near the Empress's private wine cellar. He was carrying a vial of dying breath poison. He says he was acting under orders from the Phoenix Hall. The hall erupts in murmurs. Everyone looks at the Empress, then at me, expecting me to lead the charge for her execution. Lin Fengge looks at me, a tiny, expectant smile on his lips. He is waiting for me to play my part. He is waiting for me to demand blood. Instead, I stand up slowly. A vial of poison? In the Empress's cellar? I walk toward the prisoner, my silver robes shimmering like a blade. How strange. The dying breath is a rare poison found only in the southern borders, where General Su Meiling's father, is currently stationed. Tell me, prisoner, did the Empress give you this? Or did someone just tell you to say her name before they cut your tongue out? The silence that follows is deafening. Su Meiling pales. Lin Feng's smile vanishes. I turn to the Empress and sink into a deep, respectful kowtow, not to my rival, but to my sister in arms. I believe the Empress has been framed, I say loudly, my voice echoing off the rafters, and I believe the person who did it is in this room. I don't look at the Emperor. I look at the future he tried to steal from us. The game has changed. The two queens are on the same side of the board, and the king's throne is starting to shake. The silence in the great hall is so thick it feels like a physical weight against my chest. Every courtier, every eunuch, and every soldier is pinned to their spot, eyes darting between me and the Emperor. I have just done the unthinkable. I have broken the script. Lin Feng's grip on his jade cup tightens until his knuckles turn a ghostly, bloodless white. His smile remains, that terrifying serene mask, but his eyes are twin pits of dark fire. "Ruolan," he says, his voice vibrating with a hidden, dangerous edge. "You are tired. You are letting your imagination run wild. General Su is a loyal servant of the crown. To suggest his daughter would involve herself in poison, it sounds like the very jealousy you claim to have cast aside." "I suggest only that we look at the evidence, Your Majesty," I reply, my forehead still pressed against the cold floor. I can feel the vibration of his footsteps as he stands. "If we are to protect your life, shouldn't we be thorough? Or is a quick confession more valuable than a living emperor?" Beside me, I hear a soft rustle of heavy silk. Empress Jiang stands. She moves with the slow, agonizing grace of a woman who has spent her life being a statue. She doesn't look like a victim anymore. My note, the warning that the hibiscus would be the next to burn, has clearly taken root. "Consort Shen is right," the Empress says. Her voice is like a bell ringing in a frozen forest. "If my kitchens are compromised, my entire lineage is under suspicion. I request that the imperial physicians examine the vial immediately. And," she pauses, her sharp eyes flicking toward the Emperor, "I request that the Internal Affairs Bureau trace the gold found in this prisoner's home. Surely a humble cook cannot afford dying breath on his own wages." I see the flicker of genuine panic in Lin Feng's eyes. He didn't expect the Empress to find her voice. In the last life, she had been so crushed by the shame of the accusation that she simply wept, and her silence was taken as guilt. But today, she is standing tall. "Fine," Lin Feng snaps, waving a hand dismissively. "Take him away. We will investigate. But until the truth is cleared, the Empress is to remain in the Phoenix Hall to reflect. For her own safety." It is a partial victory. She isn't stripped of her title, but she's being sidelined. As the guards lead her away, our eyes meet one last time. There is a new light in hers. Not trust, not yet, but a fierce, burning recognition. Late that night, the snow begins to fall, blanketing the Forbidden City in a deceptive layer of purity. I am sitting by the charcoal brazier in the hibiscus pavilion, watching the orange embers die. I have dismissed my maids. I am waiting. The window creaks. A cold draft of winter air rushes in, and a figure cloaked in midnight blue slips inside. It isn't the Empress, but her headmaid, May. She drops a heavy, gold-stitched pouch on my table. Inside is a single jade pendant, the twin to the one the Empress wears. "Her Majesty has read your note," May whispers, her eyes scanning my room for listeners. She wants to know how a general's daughter, who has spent her life chasing the Emperor's shadow, suddenly knows the trajectory of a hunter's arrow. I pour a cup of hot tea and push it toward her. "Tell Her Majesty that the woman who chased shadows died this morning. The woman who stands here now has seen the end of the story, and she doesn't like how it's written." I lean in, the firelight casting long, dancing shadows that make the room feel like a cage. The Emperor isn't just targeting the Jiang clan. He's liquidating the old guard. He wants to replace the nobility with new blood, men like Su Meiling's father, who owe their entire existence to him. If the Empress falls, my father's armies are the only thing left. He will frame my brother for treason within 6 months. I have seen the shadows of the edicts he is already drafting. May looks at me with horror. Why tell us? You could have used this to become the Empress yourself. I let out a bitter, hollow laugh. The Phoenix throne is a gilded cage sitting on a pile of kindling. I don't want the throne, May. I want my daughter to live. I want my father to grow old in his garden. And I want to see the man who calls himself the Son of Heaven realize he is just a man. Tell the Empress, tomorrow at the Lotus Pond, I will be feeding the fish at dawn. The Lotus Pond is a desolate place in winter. The water is gray and sluggish, trapped under a thin skin of ice. I see her standing on the stone bridge. Without her court robes, wrapped in a simple fur cloak, she looks smaller, vulnerable, yet unbreakable. You risked a lot last night, Ruolan, Empress Jiang says without turning around. If the Emperor had decided to execute that prisoner on the spot, your meddling would have looked like complicity. In a burning house, the greatest risk is staying still, Your Majesty, I say, stepping up beside her. She turns to me. Her face is pale in the dawn light. You mentioned the children in your note. You said the hunter has 2 arrows, one for the phoenix, one for the hibiscus. My heart aches. I think of my daughter, Yuan, and the way her hand felt as the life left it. He wants a pure line. He thinks our families are too powerful, our blood too tainted by political history. He wants a child from a woman who has no clan to protect her. Su Meiling's child. The Empress's hand goes to her own stomach. In the last life, her son died of a sudden fever at age 2. We both know now it was no fever. He would kill his own sons? She whispers. He doesn't see them as sons, I reply, my eyes hardening. He sees them as competitors. He loves no one but the image of himself on the throne. For a long moment, the only sound is the whistling wind. Then the Empress reaches into her cloak and pulls out a small iron key. This opens the secret archives of the palace library, she says, pressing it into my hand. There are records there of the Emperor's private expenditures. If he is building a private army through the Su family, the gold must be coming from somewhere. Find the trail, Ruolan. I will play the part of the shamed Empress. I will let Su Meiling grow arrogant. An arrogant enemy is an easy target. She reaches out, her fingers grazing my cheek. A moment of tenderness we never had in 10 years of rivalry. We were never meant to be sisters, were we? We were meant to be each other's executioners. Then let's change the script, I say. As she walks away, I look down at the iron key, but as I turn to leave, I see a flash of rose-pink silk behind a nearby willow tree. My blood runs cold. Su Meiling. She has been watching. She has been listening. I don't panic. If she had heard everything, she would be at the Emperor's feet already. She is waiting for more proof. I straighten my robes and begin to hum a soft, haunting lullaby, the one I sang to my daughter as she died. If the white lotus wants to play in the shadows, I will make sure the shadows are long enough to swallow her whole. I don't turn my head toward the willow tree. I don't give her the satisfaction of seeing the predator's pulse in my neck. Instead, I continue to hum, the melody drifting through the skeletal branches like a funeral dirge. Behind me, the rustle of silk stops. A beautiful song, Sister Ruolin, a voice chirps, sweet, high, and dripping with artificial honey. Though a bit macabre for a morning walk, don't you think? It sounds more like a lament than a celebration of the solstice. I turn slowly, my face a mask of serene indifference. Su Meiling stands there, her hand resting over her heart as if startled, her eyes wide and watery. She looks like a frightened fawn, but I know the venom she carries. She is holding a silk handkerchief, a gift from the Emperor. She hasn't run to him yet because she only saw us exchange a key. To Lin Fenge, a key could be anything. She needs to know what it opens before she strikes, or she risks looking like the jealous one. Beauty is in the ear of the listener, Mei-ling, I say, stepping off the bridge. I find that the truth is often macabre. Why are you out so early? I thought the cold didn't agree with your fragile constitution. She giggles, a sound like glass breaking. I couldn't sleep. I was so worried about the Empress after her incident, and then I saw you two here. It looked so intimate. If I didn't know better, I'd think the two most powerful women in the palace were sharing secrets that the Emperor wouldn't like. Plotting? No, Mei-ling. We were discussing the Emperor's health. He seemed so stressed last night. I was merely advising the Empress on which incense might help him sleep. I step closer, leaning in until our breaths mingle in the freezing air. But tell me, does your father know you're wandering the gardens alone? It would be a shame if the new blood of the court lost its most precious flower to a sudden slip into the icy pond. Accidents happen so easily when one is distracted by other people's business. Her face drains of color. She expects the jealous consort who screams and throws tea. She does not know how to handle the woman who quietly threatens her life. Before she can respond, I brush a stray snowflake off her shoulder and walk past her, the iron key burning against my palm. The secret archives are buried beneath the North Tower, a place where the air is thick with the smell of rotting parchment and forgotten sins. While the rest of the palace gossips about the Empress's house arrest, I spend my nights by the flicker of a single candle. I find the evidence on the third night, a series of irrigation grants sent to the southern provinces, Mei-ling's home territory. But the maps don't lie. There are no farms in those coordinates, only mountain passes and abandoned iron mines. Lin Fengge is funding a private militia under the Su name. He is building an army that doesn't answer to the Board of War. He is preparing to replace my father's soldiers with his own personal executioners. Then I see it, a draft of an edict dated 2 months from now. It's a charge of treason against my father. The evidence is a series of letters. Letters I recognize. They are the ones I wrote to my father last year, but the characters have been subtly altered to look like a conspiracy. Lin Fengge didn't just use me to fight the Empress. He used my own love for my family to build their gallows. "My lady," Chinger whispers from the shadows, "we have to go. The night watch is changing. The Emperor's personal eunuchs are patrolling the lower level." "1 more minute," I mutter. I take a piece of charcoal and quickly forge a note, mimicking the handwriting of the Southern general. If Fengge wants to play with forged letters, I will give him a masterpiece. The following week, the palace is a pressure cooker. The Empress remains sequestered, but we are moving. Every time a grant is sent south, the Empress's loyalists in the treasury redirect the funds to the imperial granary due to clerical errors. The Emperor's private army is starting to starve before it can even form. But I need to break his trust in Mei-ling. I wait until the hour of the tiger, when the Emperor always visits the Lotus Pavilion. I am already there, looking distraught, holding the forged letter I created in the archives. "Ruolan?" Lin Fengge approaches, his brow furrowed. He is already on edge. The clerical errors in the treasury have made him twitchy. I look up, my eyes brimming with fake tears. "Your Majesty, I found this. I was visiting Sister Mei-ling to offer her my friendship, but her maid dropped this. I shouldn't have read it, but the names, the mention of the northern barbarians." I hand him the letter. It hints that the Su family is taking his irrigation money and using it to buy favor with his enemies, planning to put a puppet on the throne. As he reads, the veins in his neck begin to throb. His greatest flaw is his paranoia. He doesn't love Mei-ling. He loves the control she represents. The moment he suspects she has her own agenda, his love turns to a death sentence. "Where is she?" he hisses, the paper crumpling in his fist. "I believe she is in the gardens, Your Majesty, waiting for a messenger." He storms off, his golden robes billowing like a shroud. I stand there, the wind whipping my hair across my face. From the shadows, Empress Jiang emerges. "You are playing with fire, Ruolan," she says softly. "If he finds out." "He won't," I say. "Because tonight the assassin will return. But this time, he won't be in your kitchens. He will be in the Emperor's bedchamber. And we will be the ones to save him from the traitor he thinks he loves." The Empress looks at me, and for the first time she smiles. It is the smile of a woman who has finally decided to stop being a victim. The sky above the Forbidden City is the color of a bruised plum, heavy with the weight of an impending storm. The air is thick, charged with the static of 1,000 unspoken betrayals. Tonight, the silence is not a peace. It is a fuse. I stand in the shadows of the Emperor's bedchamber balcony, my breath shallow. Beside me, Empress Jiang is a silhouette of iron and silk. She has discarded her heavy phoenix crown, her hair tied back simply, her eyes fixed on the doors. To ensure our path was clear, she used her imperial seal earlier tonight to reward the loyalist guards with jars of spiked wine. The halls are empty, manned only by those who now whisper our names in the dark. "Are you afraid, Ruolan?" she whispers. "I died once already, Your Majesty," I reply, my voice flat. Fear is a luxury for those with something left to lose. Tonight, I am only the ghost of the woman he murdered. Inside the chamber, the storm has already broken. We hear the low, rhythmic murmur of Lin Fengge's voice. He is arguing with Su Meiling. The seeds of doubt I planted have sprouted into a forest of thorns. He has spent the last 3 hours interrogating her about the forged letter, and her frantic, weeping denials have only fueled his paranoia. To a man who trusts no one, a lover's tears look like a traitor's mask. "I gave you everything," Lin Fengge's voice roars, followed by the shattering of porcelain. "I made you a goddess, and you plot with the barbarians to take my head?" "I didn't. I swear on our unborn child." Meiling's scream is shrill. "The child, or the puppet you plan to put on my throne?" This is the moment. The Emperor is blinded by his own rage. I signal to the darkness. From the rafters, 3 figures drop. My father's elite scouts, dressed in the charcoal gray of the palace guard. They don't move to kill. They move to create a spectacle. As they burst through the inner silk screens, I step into the light of the bedchamber, pulling the Empress with me. "Assassins!" I scream at the top of my lungs. "The Emperor is under attack!" The scouts engage the Emperor's personal eunuch guards, the sound of clashing steel echoing through the hallways. Lin Fengge stumbles back, reaching for the ceremonial sword on the wall. He looks at the intruders, then at Meiling, who is cowering by the bed. "Is this your work?" he hisses at her. Before she can finish, one of the assassins lunges. I throw myself forward, not to save him, but to position myself between him and the door. I let the scout's blade graze my arm, a shallow, stinging cut that blooms red across my white sleeve. "Ruolan!" the Emperor gasps, catching me as I stumble. "Run, Your Majesty!" I cry out, clutching my arm. "The Empress has called for reinforcements. We must get to the courtyard." I lead him, stumbling and bleeding, out of the chamber. He is so focused on his own survival that he doesn't notice the assassins have stopped chasing us. He doesn't notice that the halls are suspiciously quiet. We burst out into the courtyard, and Lin Fengge skids to a halt. The gates are open. The courtyard is not filled with his personal militia. It is filled with the silver-armored cavalry of the Jiang clan and the heavy infantry of the Shen family. Thousands of torches flicker in the wind, turning the snow-covered ground into a sea of fire. At the head of the army stands my father, General Shen, and the Empress's brother. They are not kneeling. They are standing with their swords drawn. "What is the meaning of this?" Lin Fengge screams. "General Shen, arrest these traitors!" My father steps forward, his voice a low rumble. "The only traitor here is the man who used his wives as bait. We have found the armories in the south, Your Majesty." We have found the poison used on the prince. And we have found the very vial of dying breath in your private desk that you used to frame the Empress. Lin Fengge turns to me, his eyes wide with a dawning, horrific realization. He sees the assassin's blood on my sleeve, but he also sees the lack of fear in my eyes. He sees the Empress standing behind him, no longer a victim, but a judge. You, he whispers. Ruolan, you did this. I didn't do this, Fengge, I say, stepping away from him and wiping the blood from my arm with a shrug. You built a palace out of lies. You wanted to be the only power in Great Yan. Well, now you are. You are the only person left in this city who believes in your crown. I am the son of heaven, he shrieks, drawing his ceremonial sword. The mandate of heaven has left you, I say, the first cold drops of rain beginning to fall. And it isn't coming back. The guards move in. They pin him to the muddy ground, the golden dragon of his robe stained with the filth of the earth. As they drag him away toward the dungeons, he looks at me one last time. There is no love left, only a hollow, screaming void. I turn to Empress Jiang. She is pale, her breath hitching, but her hand is steady as she reaches out for mine. It's over, she whispers. No, I say, looking toward the nursery where my daughter is sleeping, safe and unaware of the storm. Now, we finally begin. The spring rain has washed away the blood, the ash, and the lingering scent of dying breath poison, leaving the forbidden city smelling of fresh earth and blooming jasmine. I stand on the balcony of the hibiscus pavilion, watching the sun rise over the gilded rooftops. For the first time in 2 lifetimes, my heart doesn't feel like a clenched fist. In the courtyard below, my daughter, A Yuan, is chasing a butterfly. Her laughter is the most beautiful music I have ever heard, a sound I once thought was lost to the flames forever. She is healthy, she is safe, and she will never know the weight of a cup of wine poured by a father who hated her existence. Behind me, the doors open. Empress Jiang, now the Empress Regent, enters. She wears the dark purple of absolute authority, but her face is soft, the lines of tension that once defined her features having finally smoothed away. She carries a small box made of rosewood. The final decree has been signed, she says, joining me at the railing. The Bureau of Investigation confirmed the gold trail. Every irrigation grant has been reclaimed and redirected to the orphanages and the border defense. Lin Fengge has been exiled to the cold temple in the northern wastes. He will spend the rest of his days in silence, surrounded by the ghosts of the ancestors he betrayed. He is a king with no crown and a man with no name. And the White Lotus? I ask, my voice calm. Su Meiling has been stripped of her rank and sent to work in the imperial laundries. She wanted to be a queen. Now she will spend her life scrubbing the stains out of the robes she coveted. Her father's new blood nobility has been dismantled. The old guard stands strong again. The Empress opens the rosewood box. Inside are 2 identical jade seals. They are not the seals of a wife or a consort. They are the seals of the co-regency. The court was shocked, she says with a faint, genuine smile, a smile she never would have shared with me in our first life. They expected us to tear each other apart for the throne once he was gone. They didn't know that after walking through fire together, a piece of wood and a crown mean nothing without a sister to share the burden. I take one of the seals, the jade cool and solid in my hand. We are the architects of a new era. A world where our children will grow up as brothers and sisters, not as rivals for a father's poisoned affection. We have broken the karmic cycle of the palace war. We didn't just survive the game. We rewrote the rules. I look down at A Yuan. She looks up and waves, her small face bright with joy. I wave back, a single tear of relief finally escaping my eye. I died a consort, broken and betrayed. I was reborn a warrior. But today, as the light of a new day bathes the empire, I am simply a mother who kept her promise. The hunter's bow is broken. The phoenixes have taken flight. And for the first time, the story belongs to us. The throne is no longer a lonely seat of betrayal, but a shared path of justice. If you believe that the strongest bonds are forged in the fire of truth rather than the shadows of lies, then stay a part of our sisterhood. The hunter's arrows are spent, but our reign has only just begun. Tell me which moment shocked you the most or touched your heart the deepest. Your comments mean the world to me. They help me keep creating more stories like this. Please like, subscribe, and share. Your support keeps Jade Fables alive. See you in the next story.